Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? I am considerably calm with the circumstances that are plaguing me right now. I was supposed to go out today. I woke up and oh boy, my body wasn't having it. So most of my day was spent taking lots of pictures and posting it on yard sale sites in hopes that I get to sell some stuff. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But I don't know how long they'll keep my internet on since I didn't get to pay that bill. It's kind of expensive here. We'll see what I can do, but there's other bills I can't pay either, so we'll see. Before I begin, please hit that like, share is caring, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I took pictures. I was at 330 subscribers and then they knocked 2 off. I don't know why. And I don't know if that's real. It happens a lot like that. So they're messing with numbers again because they might not like all the content that I put out. If you get anything from my work, I would like to keep this channel going, which means I need to pay my internet bill. I live in New York City. I can't get a job because I have spinal issues, so I have to get specific jobs. I can't get disability because I can work. I tried the remote thing for 4 months, never worked out with plethora of companies. My field's in education. I'm an artist. I love to read. I love doing all this stuff, but there's no jobs like that. And if they are, they're not in New York. And everywhere else that you can actually make a substantial living, you need an SS card because the mandates still exist here. So I can use all the help that I can get right now. Anything helps. If you've ever gotten a light bulb, an epiphany, a connect the dot. Once I can get out of here, which I am working on, trying to clean out my house, trying to sell furniture, trying to sell random stuff that I won't need, but could get some money off of and get to another state so I can find a job and not have to worry anymore and sell my house. I won't have to worry for a while. And I could continue doing this, I'd be very happy. But there's this in-between period that I'm in now that I could use all the help that I can get. And I'm trying to manifest it all day. I was listening to affirmations while cleaning and sifting through stuff to put out for tonight's garbage. Anywho, with enough of my issues, I'm sorry, I have to vent. I don't have anybody to vent to, so it's going to be you guys. And I do appreciate everybody who watches. And again, I know a lot of people are in really rough times, so I get it, but like share and hit that like button. That helps me out, get to be seen by more and more people. And I appreciate that. The key of destiny. Number 15. Number 15 is going to have to be broken up into some parts here. It's a lengthy. And let me remind everybody, those have been falling down more frequently. I found some dental glue. It's not doing the trick. So I'm doing the best that I can. I know the last couple of readings have been a little rough because I have to like drop my mouth down so my teeth don't fall like fly out of my mouth. That's like the last problem I have right now. But just be mindful that I have these issues, and it's not because I'm not trying to pronounce things right or get wording out. It's because I literally can't, and it's frustrating, and I don't need to be embarrassed by my teeth falling out of my face. Number 15, men, the creator, the awakening. We're going through that right now. Quote, all beings from the first divine emanation or God manifestation down to the lowest atomic existence have their particular number, which distinguishes each of them. And because the source of their attributes and qualities as their destiny, end quote. The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky. And I'm reading that currently as well. In number 15, we find ourselves confronted with a very powerful number and one that is very little understood. In truth, it is a most mystical number, combining as it does the 10 of perfection and 5 of humanity, being completed in the 6 of the Christ force, 1 + 5 = 6. Struggling into manifestation against the inertia of matter, this number might therefore be called man, the redeemer of matter. Hence, the fundamental meaning of number 15 is man, the creator, but he is still blinded by the scarce dares to look at the pure light of the Christos on the one hand, and on the other, with the 5 of personality so strong that he still seeks amidst the darkness of the vibrations of his 5 senses, sensations, for some focus for his faith, thus setting up his own conceptions and attributing to them the perfection of 10 of God. Therefore, in number 15, we see man standing midway in evolution, but with his face turned toward the darkness produced by his own black shadow, which is made more intense by the brilliancy of light focused upon him at this point. The pure Christ light is beginning to shine within him, like the sun rising on a new day, its magical life and warmth stirring in him a great longing for the light. All he has to do to find it is to turn around and face it. No one who has spent a night camping out in a spot far from mankind and has awakened very early when the first herald of the dawn begins to appear, but has left and heard through the darkness, which at that hour seems even more dense than a midnight, certain vague stirrings, all nature seems whispering of the day about to dawn, and in the east a faint streak of light is suggested. One who has experienced this awakening of nature and has let that experience speak to his soul knows better than any words can tell in the meaning of number 15. This is a very important number, for it symbolizes that man's darkest night is now behind him, the vague stirrings within him belonging to the new day. It is also man standing in the balance with all the forces of the Christ light, the rising sun, quickening him with the promise of his highest and grandest achievements, vaguely foreshadowing in his mind. It symbolizes a phase of development all must pass through as individuals, which the race as a whole is today facing. Like all things that are divine, number 15 is a trinity, God, man, and the devil. Or God, the light, trying to manifest man with his back to the light, and the devil or black shadow cast by man, which has become all the more noticeable because of the brilliancy of the light behind him. It is man in a threefold aspect, divine within, but not yet divine without, although being quickened and unfolded by the divine fire of the Christ force, or eternal motion and creative energy, ever piercing the density of man's darkest in disobedience, and through karmic readjustment, redeeming him. At this step, he is played upon by the dual aspects, good and evil. For just as the devil is an embodiment of anarchy, evil, and injustice, so the Lord is an embodiment of law, order, and justice. Another aspect of 15 is as 5 plus 5 plus 5. Blah, blah, blah. 5 plus 5 plus 5. Or man with his 5 senses functioning in the 3 worlds, which can be understood, balanced, and mastered only as he permits these 3 fives, or his 5 senses in the 3 worlds, to be permitted by the Christ force, and permit it to include all 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15 equals 6, and open his eyes to the realities of the 3 worlds, according to the numbering of the planets revealed to John Hayden and recorded in his holy guide. Quote, "It will be seen that an extension of these numbers according to their cosmic order yields the glyph of the divine number 15, which is as expressing the name of Jah. The Hebrews replace in their enumeration by the 9 and 6. Then the sum of the 5 planetary numbers plus half the value of the sun and moon together equals positive 35 and negative 34. The sum of those is 69 equals 15, end quote. Among the Hebrew, 15 was looked upon as a divine number since it expressed the same Jah, and as they were forbidden ever to speak or represent this sacred word, they always expressed 15, which they called the unmentionable number by 9 and 6. At least this is the reason generally given for thus expressing 15. But we think it far more likely that 9 and 6 were used to express more fully the true meaning of 15. For as we have pointed out, 9 is a number of initiation and 6 is a number of the Christ principle. It will be noted that number 6 lacks just one trinity of becoming 9. In other words, number 6 is 2 interlaced triangles, man and nature, while 9 adds one more, the Trinity of God. Hence, to gather the full significance of the Hebraic meaning attached to 15, we must take this fact into consideration. At 15, man has not yet developed the God in him, hence is not yet ready for initiation, but the Christ is striving to prepare him for it. He has obtained his supremacy in the 2 worlds, mental and natural, but has not yet learned to govern them by the divine God power. He is awakening from his sleep and beholding applied that which in his ignorance he has created. He realizes that the appalling perversion of both nature and man himself has been his own work. Through the suffering and terrible consequences he endures, he learns his power and determines to turn around and add good or the 3rd triangle to his creation. The idea of 3 times 5 is expressed in the book of Enoch in regard to the moon. Quote, when the moon rises, it appears in heaven, and the half of the 7th portion of light is all which it is in it. In 14 days, the whole of its light is completed. By 3 quadruples, 3 times 5, lighted is put into it until in 15 days its light is completed. According to the signs of the year, it has quintuples. End quote. Of course, this is both mystical and symbolical language, yet if we take the moon to mean intuition and personality in the word quintuple, meaning as it does 5-fold or of 5 parts, at once we see that the idea sought to be conveyed is that the light of intuition illumines his personality in 3 times 5 parts. The first, although perfect, is but a 7th portion. The intuition of the childhood of the race, the recognition of oneness with nature being very marked in all primitive races. The second part is his power intuitively to create through his own will and thought, either good or evil. The third part is when his intuition begins to awaken the personality to its higher godlike possibilities. For the moon being full in 15 days is nevertheless but a reflection of the light of the sun. Thus, the personality is completely filled with the light of the spiritual sun only when it has reached the point of unfoldment symbolized by number 15. Again, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 equals 15. And if we take the digits composing 15 and arrange them in a magic square, they can be made to add up to 15 in 15 or more different ways. This indicates that 15 represents not individual man, but humanity. It also shows that no matter what the differences among men, either of race, education, or condition, yet all are brothers and are common heirs to the karmic conditions produced by the wrong use of their power. These conditions can be squared only when all find their place in the magic square of 15. It also indicates, firstly, that there is a great magical archaeum, the heritage of the race, now black because besmirched by man's ignorance and disobedience, yet through the united efforts of humanity capable of being washed in the blood of the Lamb, the life force, or the Christos. And secondly, that the accomplishing of this task is great work given to all, hence that all are united in one mighty chain. This chain can bind men to misery, suffering, and degradation, or it can unite him in one strong abiding hand of brotherhood. And as a chain is no stronger than its weakest link, so individual man can never obtain perfect freedom alone. Hence, we might say that the slogan of 15 is one for all and all for one. The Lamb of God is associated with Aries, the first son of the zodiac. It has been slain from the foundation of the world, not permitted to function as a river of life force of the race. The 10th sign, Capricorn, which is the cradle of the Christ, has been degraded and worshipped as a devil under the name of Baphomet, or the goat of the Mendes, the river of the astral forces. And it is 15 that must turn both these rivers back into their true beds. Again, 15 times 15 equals 225, and 2 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9. Thus, when man as an individual reaches 15 and then through his awakened powers multiplies himself in humanity or loses the sense of separateness, the entire race will stand facing 15, confronted with the possibility of initiation, which shall confer upon the godlike possibilities of mastery as a race. Then the whole race, rather than an individual here and there, as at present, will stand before the judgment seat of God, or before the highest judgment of good, when good alone shall be the measure of a man and of a race. Only the majority stands for righteousness. Will we enter the golden age? Then the city of confusion shall become the city of the New Jerusalem, the city of peace, and all mankind shall walk its golden streets, and there shall be no more night, because man has turned to the Christ, so that his own dark shadow no longer obstructs the light of the sun of the righteousness, for 15 has reached its final adjustment. The terrible carnage of war and other karmic adjustments, which are today overwhelming the world, is not the final initiation, for just as man must face many minor initiations on his path of attainment, he reaches the portal of mastery, so the race must face minor readjustments at the end of every great period or sub-race. We're here. Mankind can enter into a new day. The darkness of the past night must be dissipated. Ere the world can begin a new era, all of evil that was created in the past era must be wiped out or ground fine in the mills of the gods, and its substance made into good experience. And since men had refused to be nourished by the blood of the Lamb as the vital life of the Christ, but has lived in his own physical sphere, where the physical blood is only an idea he has of life force, and he has even materialized the grand symbol of the blood of Jesus, the great avatar, the Son of God, he must learn his lesson through the literal shedding of blood. Hence, it is this literal physical blood that must be poured out to wash away the sins or misunderstandings of the past and prepare for the new day. But it is not the blood of the Son or God, but the blood of his brother man. For only through such experience can we learn the mystical interpretation of whoso sheddeth a man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. Through this shedding of man's blood, man as a whole is slowly learning that physical blood is after but the life of the physical body, and that there is a life force blood which still animates his inner bodies, that its consciousness, he is just as vitally alive, or even more so, after every drop of the physical blood has been drained from his body on the battlefield and the physical body torn to pieces. Moreover, he has learned that the physical shedding of blood has not washed away the sins of the world, for sin still exists in the astral world in all its hideousness, and constantly participates itself into the physical world. Hence the blood of the Christ that taketh away the sins of the world and also washes clean the astral spheres in the mystical life force of the Christ, of which each soul must indeed partake, and not the physical blood of the man Jesus. I don't know how much of it I agree on all that, but it's pretty sound. Number 15, the devil. Quote, in the circle of its action, every word creates that which it affirms. He who affirms the devil creates or makes a devil. Let us assert more strongly, sorry guys, that a superior personality and power, Satan, does not exist. He is the personification of Nesses, end quote, transcendental magic led by. Quote, for the thing which I greatly feared is coming upon me, end quote, Job. Yes, I got a little princess over here. By some, number 15 is called evil and is dedicated to the devil, and on the principle so apt to prevail in the world that the thing we do not understand we both fear and extricate, this number being no exception to the rule, has had to bear its full share of misrepresentation and ignominy. However, so many in these days are feeling the stringings of the coming awakening that it is scarcely necessary to point out that a thing becomes to our consciousness just what we call it. Hence, if we call number 15 the devil at once, we must give the devil or the evil a field of operation. So we make him a king and give him the world for his kingdom. Damn true. This kingdom we call hell, or a place of torment. Yet we know very well that it has no power to torment those who dwell in the light of the Christ, even though this light be still struggling with the density of man's ignorance. We know the light will and must prevail, just as when we wake, chilled by the night wind, in the darkest hour just before the dawn, we know that the sun will rise and dispel the chill and darkness, and that the shadows which seem so terrifying to us in the dark hour The moment the sun appears, we take the shape of a familiar object, and the wind, which moans so dismally, now will fill us with the refreshing rapture of a new day. The forces personified as a devil are very real forces at present, though not immortal, for they are man's own creations. And as long as man is finite being, he is not the power of himself to create that which is immortal. He can only do this through the Christ, and the Christ has nothing to do with the creation of evil or the devil. Man has created, yes, and still creates him through the power of thought and desire. Many men thinking the same thoughts create corresponding currents of force in the mental world, which if persisted, become enticed into a thought form or many thought forms with the power and characteristics of the thoughts which have produced them. That's true. Hence, in exact proportions to the amount of life force put into the thoughts, producing such entities and the creative powers extended upon them, are they real during the period of their manifestation. But as we have said, they cannot be immortal. The Christ force must prevail, even as 6 is the ultimate of 15. A superficial glance over the history of mankind will show us that the belief in the devil is a very real one. Also, that the votive offerings sacrificed to him are the outpourings of man's most primitive feelings of fear and selfish gain. As long as we fear and seek to propitiate him, this very fear is an acknowledgement of his power. In many cases, the sacrifice and worship is offered by sincere so-called followers of the Christ. For has not the church for ages taught the necessity of penance, of prayers, fasting, sacrifices, and scourgings of the flesh? Surely not to please a God of love, but to appease the devil, thus defiling the temple of the living God and making it only a channel house of disease and death, fit only for the devil to live in. And in the mistaken scourgings, fastings, flagnations of the Middle Ages can be traced many present-day neuroses and kindred diseases. By the horrors penetrated upon the human body in such practices, especially during the days of the reign of the so-called Holy Inquisition, when even human sacrifices were offered to this thought of an evil power to be proportionate. The many who died under the torture inflicted for their soul's good, and by incalculated doctrine that the devil was supreme, man has not only created him and set him on the throne of the world, but it has literally transformed the fleshy bodies of men made in the image of God into a semblance of this monster through the deformities of those who were broken on the rack and other torments. Hence, instead of a pure temple for the Holy Spirit to dwell in many instances, we find the human body today heir to malformations, weaknesses, and predispositions to diseases caused by the mistaken practices of past lives. Oh, goody. Fun! I get to manifest all this shit in this world. Recognizing as we do today that many diseases, with the exception of accidents, trauma, external poisonings, are the result of thought. It is not a wild supposition to believe that it is this fear thought of a monstrous personification of evil, the belief in a personal devil instilled into the mind of man for ages, coupled with the thought that every child is born in sin, which has people in the astral and psychic worlds with terrible antagonistic vile forces that are cause for many nervous and nearly all psychic diseases, especially the terrible scourge of mankind, cancer. For just as the devil and all its followers are a false life or false god, or the pure life stream reversed, so cancer in the human body is the life force reversed or working its own will without control or supervision. It is something evil and monstrous, growing cell by cell and destroying the temple of the living God. Those who are victims of it, however, are by no means its sole creators. Mark this very plainly. Any more than every soul who succumbs to a temptation is wholly responsible individually for the creation of the devil and all his attained evils. It is part of this race, karma. Yet those who succumb either to loathsome diseases in the body or equally loathsome diseases of the mind do so because they have not been sufficiently filled with the pure divine life force of the Christ. They have been negative and so have left an open door into which the muddy stream of evil has poured and polluted the pure stream of the Christ life. The belief in or fear of the power of evil is such an opening. I'm going to comment, but I'm going to read this first. Many who are suffering today from the loathsome disease of cancer, in their last incarnation believed implicably in the power of evil and gave much of their thought to the appeasing or appropriation of the devil, or in cases in which the cancer seems to have been inherited, the family in which the soul has incarnated has for generations handed down a strong belief in the inevitability of cancer being inherited. The church has made the devil a necessary part of its doctrine, for although in the articles of religion of some denominations they do not specifically affirm the devil, yet they teach it by inference. For instance, in Article 17 of the Predestination and Election, we read, quote, whereby the devil doth thrust them either into desperation or into wretchedness of most unclean living, no less perilous than desperation, end quote. Through the church's postulate of original sin, the devil is given greater power than the Christ in that he is given the power to blast every soul born into physical life, while the Christ can only redeem only those who seek salvation, and that with difficulty. That which is original comes first. Hence, from this postulate, we might deduce that the devil was the original king of the world instead of but the despoiler Christ's kingdom. Although we are distinctly told in the Bible that thy kingdom is an everlasting kingdom and thy domain endureth throughout all generations. And the articles of religion tell us, and yet it is not lawful for the church to ordain anything that is contrary to God's word within. Neither may it so expound one piece of scripture that it be repugnant to another. Yet even today, the devotee who fails to bow in abject submission to the belief in the devil's baneful rule, or who dares to assert in church circles that there is no devil outside of man's perverted creations, is looked upon askance. Since all this is vital belief, carrying life, energy, and much creative thought force, in fact, when we consider the voluminous treatise of the early church on the devil, it is no wonder that we are suffering from its effects in the body, mind, and estate. That was Harry. And we thus suffer until we persistently create its opposite. Ephesius Levi tells us, quote, in a word, the devil is for us, even as mortal sin is to our thinking the persistence of the will in what is absurd. Pause. Since we're on this topic of discussion here, I don't want the person listening to me thinking that you cause your disease, cause cancer, cause your illnesses due to your belief in the devil. Many people are transporting things from past lives into this life. That's no doubt. But what a lot of people don't know that I do, because I've seen the documentation from the governments. Cancer is man-made. Cancer is through people who worship the devil, who are in control of our society. The very people that you might call a politician, the people that are CEOs, the people who own and the CEOs of Fortune 500 farms and horticulture and agriculture and production, many of them, I'm not saying all, worship the Satan. And what do they do to the Christ-like people, to the people of light? They put products and chemicals in our food, water, and air. So no matter what organic substance you try to say it's organic, it really isn't, because your air and water has the same chemicals. The food that they produce has hormones and drugs and other things that make our bodies go wackadoo, that are not natural to processing food. Food back when I was a little kid is nothing like it is today. It doesn't even taste the same. Morgan says hi, by the way. So I want everybody to really understand that this was written in a different time frame. And this is a huge belief. And yes, I believe a lot of what they're saying. You only create what you manifest. And when enough people create it, for example, A Nightmare on Elm Street, if you've ever watched Freddy Krueger, the movie. And later on in the series, the more modernized ones, you know, the kids are going about their everyday lives, and then, you know, someone has a dream, and so many of them start thinking about the old stories and stuff, and enough people started thinking about Freddy Krueger that he manifested out. It's the same concept. If enough people believe in it, it manifests. And that's really what this whole thing is saying. But the one thing I don't subscribe to is that any of us were born in sin. Sin is a Babylonian moon god. That's where sin actually comes from. I don't subscribe that God would create us and that automatically out of the womb we're sinful. I don't believe that at one moment. Nope, don't believe it. I don't think we're born in sin or of sin. We're born innocent. And it's the environment that we're born into that shapes and molds who we are. And unfortunately, this is hell. And not because I said it and not because I manifested it. It is what it is because enough people believe in it, and has occurred since the dawn of time. So please understand, I have a lot of issues health-wise. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I have hypothyroidism. I have a slip disc on L5, a bone spur on C6-7. That's hitting my spinal cord. I have nerve damage on the left side of my back. I also have herniated and bulging discs in my spine, degenerative disc disease. I have osteoarthritis in my knees. I barely have teeth. I don't have any real teeth in my mouth. I have little spiky things in some places, but for the most part, they're all caps and crowns. All of that to say that sure, some of it is hereditary and some of it's genetic. I get it, cool. But a lot of it's my environment. A lot of it is the food that we were eating and the things that we put into our body. So please don't. I'm pausing here because I think it's very vital, like I did the other night, for people to make a distinguishing factor here that the majority of this is true, but humans created cancer and put those components in everything we have. So it's not a person's fault if they get stuff. It is the people running the world who have, it's a sacrifice for them on a massive scale. That's what they get their energy from. And again, you can eat really cleanly and you can eat really good food that's clean and you want to say it's organic, but it really isn't. Unless you live in a biosphere where the outside world is not in it, there is contaminants in everything that you have. And eventually we're going to be purged and cleansed of that. So don't worry. This is where allergies come from. That's why I have so damn many. Back to the book. Can we then hesitate to say that man's thought has created a devil and made him very real and give him power over the earth? The devil is the synthetic embodiment of all man's ideas of a personal devil, as well as the dark shadows of all men's perverse and degrading beliefs and practices in connection with the physical expression of the life force. And this devil, or to put it more correctly, the entitized evil, is the adversary, or that which fights against all efforts or attempts either to change the current of thought which feeds him or to withdraw the life force on which he lives. We cannot impress too strongly this fact upon our readers, for all those devout souls who believe in the devil are striving continually to precipitate him or are bowing down to worship him by admitting his power, even though they do not so in a negative way, and are thus helping to keep him in power. There are thousands today who think their faces are turned toward the light of the Christ and who earnestly desire to walk in that light, who are nevertheless pouring out daily libations of thought, force, and worship to this monster. That's the truest statement ever. No, there's a lot more, but people only knew. People only knew. But his power is limited by the amount of belief and vital thought given him. Like all thought forms, he will gradually fade into nothingness when his force is withdrawn. Can we then hesitate to say that man's thought has created a devil and made him very real and give him power over the earth? Guys, truth be told, let's stop thinking about it. We cannot impress too strongly this fact upon our readers, for all those devout souls who believe in the devil are striving continually to proportionate him or are bowing down to the worship him by admitting his power, even though they do so in a negative way, and are thus helping to keep him in power. There are thousands today who think their faces are turned toward the light of Christ and who earnestly desire to walk in the light, who nevertheless pouring out daily libations of thought, force, and worship to this monster. I have to repeat some of these things to like drill it home. That's hard to hear for a lot of people. But it's true. for my eyes at least. The Bible tells us to resist not evil, but to overcome evil with good. This is wise philosophy, for the devil being but man's creation, we naturally give to him much thought of a very vital character. To overcome him with good, we must recognize that the thing we dwell on in thought, we give power over us. Hence, we must fill our minds with thoughts of good as a positive force, that it may drive out the phantom of evil. In other words, when man turns around and faces the pure white light of the Christ, this being the one immortal reality, it will just as surely drive out and overcome the black shadow of man's imagining, as will the rise sun dispel the darkness of night. As the world is today, we might compare evil to a great corporation whose chief asset is the devil and all his works. Everyone in the corporation will receive his share of the assets in exact ratio to that which he has put into it, or the stock he holds in it. Sounds like Americans, just saying. Hence, if we refuse to take stock or pay premiums in the corporation, we do not receive dividends. So why waste time fighting or resisting it? We should use our powers to make the idea unpopular. To do this, we must spread the idea of light and freedom, hold up the banner of the Christ, and through concentration, thought, add to the power of the light. While we cannot help but recognize the presence of evil in the world, else why any effort to reform? We should avoid talking or dwelling upon it in thought, but we should create its opposite every time it is presented to our consciousness, and thus hasten the dawning of a new day. We need to do that. Number 15 is above all other numbers, the one which either makes or destroys the devil and all his works, among which is black magic. Magic is that which is produced by invisible means, or by thought power and concentrated will. Hence, if the devil is the enticing force of man's evil thinking and willing, black magic can well be described as an almost unbelievable lengths to which man, while professing to be a Christian, can still carry hatred, cruelty, persecution, and unbrotherliness toward his fellow man. And this monster thrives on autocracy in religious matters, as well as on war, famine, and pestilence, lust, greed, and avarice. All these things are facing the world today as the race is passing the period comparable to 15. And it is only the completion of this number in 6, 15 equals 1 plus 5 equals 6, or the rising of the sun of righteousness, that can awaken man to see things in their true light. Today, the world stands aghast at the blackness and chill of a long night and asks, why blanched lips? Is this the darkest hour before the dawn? Who shall say? The world is now turning longing eyes toward the east, and by the very suffering and horror resulting from the negative expression of 15, is expecting to see the sun of a new day arise and the Christ of number 6 rejuvenate and recreate the world. Repentance means turning around and facing the other way, and 15 is such a turning point in the life of individuals and the race. Let us pray that the dawn shall break ere these lines are read. When Belshazzar, the king of Babylon, confusion was at the height of his insolence, debauchery, and vileness in the midst of his festivities, his enemies, the Medes and the Persians, led by Cyrus, took from him the city by turning the waters of the river Euphrates into a new channel, thus leaving a passageway under the gate of the city. When the city of Babylon was built, the river Euphrates was deflected to the left from its original channel so that the river would flow through the city and supply it with water. It was so arranged that the entire river flowed under the principal gate of the city, so that when the gate was shut down, the river formed an important factor in the defense of the city. When Cyrus took the city, he restored the river to its original channel and marched his army under the gate where the river once flowed. The meaning of the name Cyrus is the sun, thus symbolizing that it is the sun of righteousness alone with which can capture the city of confusion by turning its river life stream into its original and normal channel. The Bible story of Belshazzar and his feast does not agree with the facts of history, as it was designed to teach a mystical truth, but it is an excellent symbolic story of how we can conquer the devil and take his kingdom from him, even at the height of his power and feasting, namely by digging a new channel for the rivers of thought force to flow through, that they shall no longer flow in the city of confusion, and water is with festive life, but shall leave it and dry at the mercy of the conqueror. The thing to do is to mobilize a great army of our thoughts and set this army to work to patiently dig a new channel, that the river of the world's thought may no longer flow into the city of confusion, but shall water the land as originally intended and bring forth love, purity, unselfishness for all mankind. So shall the king of this world, the devil, be destroyed, and his kingdom be taken from him. For it is not by might nor by force, but by the Spirit with the Lord. Hence the true meaning or power of 15 is the power to dare and do. Again, number 15 is a number which gives man the power to use his senses in the astral world, much is the same way as he has entered the mental world in number 14 by the control of thought. Here again, he can either create or destroy the devil according to as he uses the experiences there found to further his personal ends, or learns their lessons and uses them to help humanity. Here, too, must he dig a new channel for the river of astral force, that it may no longer water the land of delusion and desire. He must withdraw the life force from all deluding and misleading thought forms that are emissaries of the devil to deceive and mislead the seeker after truth. According to Apollonius, you know what I'm talking about, I can't get it out. 15 is the 6th hour of initiation, and he calls it Typhon, the electrical whirlwind. See, that's my dyslexia right there. Sorry about that. I caught it though. Here one must remain quiet, immovable through fear. While we do not altogether endorse this precept, yet we understand what it refers to, for at this step the neophyte has reached and is facing a most formidable test. It is here that he must meet the dead dweller on the threshold so geographically described by Bulwer-Lytton in his novel Zanoni. This dweller is an entity built up by the synthesis of all our faults and failings. Hence, because it is the evil in ourselves, it is horrible to the last degree and most difficult to face, recognize as our own and conquer. It also inspires a feeling of terror and almost hopelessness, for in its evil eyes, we see the things in ourselves we have refused to admit heretofore, the creatures of our outer darkness. We meet a lesser expression of the dweller at every minor step in a particular manifestation of this especial thing we must conquer at that step. But when the neophyte reaches this 6th hour, the Christ hour made up of 1 + 5, he must once for a face his lower self and must recognize all its hideousness. It is now standing revealed and ready to fight and continued life. No longer is it but one fault that is shown to him, but every hidden vileness, that which he never suspected, yet which at the moment he can no longer say is not his own lower self. He stand immovable with fear, for because it is his own creation, he alone and unassisted must face and conquer it. If he hesitates, he is lost, for even as he watches, it grows until what at first appears but a hideous dwarf now becomes a menacing giant. Although he is seemingly so unprotected, yet he has the power of the guardian of the threshold, the synthesis of his higher thoughts and better nature, which although unseen stands close behind him. This is the threshold of a new day at one meant. The day when he leaves behind forever the old life interests and enters into a life of interest engendered by his awakened powers. The world today is facing the monstrous dweller on the threshold of the 6th hour, the Great World War, with its attendant horrors, with the manifestation of the dweller, and only as we unite our forces, not in anger and hate, but in love and for truth, justice, and humanity, to strangle this terrible thing, knowing full well that no matter how hideous its mind, it is our own belonging not to any one nation alone, but to the race. We will have the power to conquer. We each individually, through all the ages of the old day just past, have poured into it our thoughts of cruelty, unbrotherliness, greed, and avarice, which have coalesced into the thing we now face. The one who is earthly leader is but one who has opened his mind and heart to the world's evil thought forces and has dared to express them. Therefore, since all are responsible, all must help to overcome this dweller, that a victorious and purified humanity may cross the threshold and enter into a new day now dawning. I'm going to probably cut that here because I'm going to rant. Everything that was just read is true. Spirit times my readings perfectly because we're at this threshold right now. We're watching people who follow the devil. We're watching them slowly fade away and lose their power because more and more people are coming, and it doesn't need to be Christ, by the way. It could be Christ consciousness. A lot of people, again, this is a like Christian mystic type of book, Christian mysticism. But there are a lot of people who are off put by Christianity by a lot. So I don't want to lock people in because this information is absolutely relevant to now. And it doesn't matter what religion you believe in or what book you follow. This is very real. We have to stop giving power to the evil nonsense and these people who perpetuate it. And it's people that some awakened people know exactly who these evil shits are. Mind you, we know. For those of you who are not in a political or idolized stars like the singers and actors and politicians and people in high society, I'm not talking about all of them because not every one of them are subscribed to that, but there are a vast majority who are, and it's a secret little club and you ain't in it. George Carlin. That was one of the most funniest but most epically truth bombs the world could have ever gotten from George Carlin, the comedic genius. Sadly, because of these people creating these thought forms and having a hold and tax on our society. A lot of the people of the light are having a difficult time, I being one of them, being forced into their system because the choices are very null and void. If you ever want to make anything out of yourself, either you live in a tiny commune or you have to be a part of the world in which involves all these nefarious things. The internet, electric, gas. They're all things that help us get around and to function as human beings, because this is what happened when technology took over. When I grew up, there really wasn't anything until I was in my teens. You know, we had the basic telephone with the dial. I had one of those in my house. I didn't have technology, and it was probably the best thing in the world. I'm very old school. I don't like computers. Again, I don't have graphics. Other people have these like mystical graphics and really nice, cute music. I don't have any of that. I don't know how to do that. I went to school. And again, in 2005, when I graduated college, Photoshop just was coming out, like the basic version of Photoshop to the masses, by the way. So there's a lot of advancement in technology that I don't subscribe to. I don't like it. I don't care that other people use it, not my problem. But all this devilly stuff has infiltrated every aspect of our lives. And a lot of people don't even realize it, because the people who created it in the first place created it to enslave us and to have the obey, bow down to us. There's a lot that goes into this. A lot. Understand who copyrighted the Bible, especially the King James Version. And when you find that out, that's a huge problem. Go look it up. When you find out all the other Bibles that are out there and really dissect the language in a lot of them, and the forward, the notes, stuff of that nature, it really opens up your eyes to really who is ruling the world and controlling it, and it is not of the light. Right now, we're going through a freaking war of good versus evil. It is biblical. Guess what? This time the light won already. We won. The problem is we're watching that death roll. I watched my mom go through it, so I absolutely understand what that terminology means. It's like the last hour of someone dying, and it's just like, oh my God, just go already. Not out of because we don't want to see them, it's because we want them out of pain. And it's like the same thing. The evil is dying out. Everybody's getting caught doing their dirty deeds. And it's like, all right now already, like, how much longer do we all need to suffer? Because we all need to start thinking of better and greater things. We need to be about humanity, about helping each other. And that's really actually what is lacking. That really upsets me. Is that people who are actually asking for help are not really receiving much help. And it's the assume, it's like somebody goes into cardiac arrest and no one points and someone screams, someone call 911, can someone grab the AED? And everybody's assuming the other person's going to go do that job, and no one does that. And now time is passing when somebody is just getting basic CPR by somebody who is a deer in headlights and really doesn't know how to give compressions. And you could have been that person on the floor after a heart attack or whatever happened to you. It's like, no, you got a point and you got a point, and you can't assume that other people are doing it. And that's what's really happening in society. Everybody thinks someone else is going to pick up the slack. someone's always going to be doing something. Well, no one does nothing. In my house, when my parents died, I could have sold my parents' suits and some furniture and some medical gear, but I donated a lot of that stuff. Every hurricane and natural disaster, I've always donated instead of selling and profiting. And not that it's like I already bought the object. Now I'm gonna like sell it for less and somebody can give me money so I can have something. But no, I gave a lot of my stuff out for free. And the same thing is going to happen now. Whatever doesn't sell is going to charity. I'm not chucking it out. There's some good stuff that if I can't sell, and I'm only selling it because I really don't have money. I am internally freaking out to know how high my interest rates on my credit cards are going to go, because that's how I've been paying my bills, by the way, for the last couple of months. So who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of days. And at this point, I don't care anymore. You know why? Because not many people care in the first place. Evil's trying to stop me in my throat chakra, and it's not gonna work. Anyway, it's a new moon. I give my personal example just to, and not to make anybody feel bad. I don't want people pitying me. Please don't pity me. Again, it's the evil devil worshipers who did this to my situation. And of course, it's going to affect the people that are helping humanity the most. That's how it goes. In all honesty, there's a reason why I'm allergic to a lot of things. My first job, I was allergic to chlorine, and I was a lifeguard. Second job, love my job. I love both my jobs, by the way. Those were my careers. Couldn't do that because I'm allergic. So either I commit suicide then, or I do it afterwards, which I'm not going to. But either I'm going to have a long suffering death or an instantaneous one. So I'd rather choose the long way out and hope and pray that things turn around so that I can get back on my feet. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for I don't care what side of the coin that you're on. It's unconstitutional, and it's against the Nuremberg Code. There are things that are out there that were just highly ignored. And during emergency orders, you still can't abridge and go over the Constitution. Sorry. Health cases or not, I was doing the tests, and I was doing everything asked of me to keep everybody safe. I'm not disrespectful, and I've been trying to get jobs here where I'm not in direct contact with people to be respectful. Back of the house, stock room, cleaning in hotel rooms, and they all want papers. And a lot of the stuff that they need, I can't lift. So again, like here it is where my conundrum comes. I'm on my mission doing this. Hopefully one day it comes in abundance that I don't have to keep complaining and bothering people just to make it ends meet and pay the simplistic bills that comes with life. Because trust me, if I had it, I'd be still a plain Jane. I don't need any Louis Vuitton bags. I don't need to look in Gucci and Chanel. I don't need, I am a very basic and plain person. I don't need those things to be happy. I just like books and gems, but I don't buy ones that cost a lot. So really just put it into your head right now. Think about what was just spoken and what I read to you. I repeated some stuff because it felt it's very, very permanent and important that we take that in and we really absorb that, because it's true. In my opinion, I think it's absolutely true. There's too many people now suffering in this world, and there's too many people going on with life like there's nothing wrong. Like everything is okay. No one's standing up to the gas prices. No one's, you know, I'm not saying no one, there are people, but there's not enough. It needs to be a mass uprising. And right now, there's no mass uprisings. I don't care what political party you align with, it doesn't matter. That's division in the first place, designed that way. And it don't matter what country you live in. It's all about divide and conquer and to take over. And it's of the devil. All of it is. Let's start shining the light on this world, and let's start all encompassing the light. You start thinking of fear, go put on some affirmations, sit and listen to them. And you don't have to meditate to listen to affirmations. Brian Scott from the Reality Revolution, he has a lot of just 500 affirmations. And I play those all the time. They make me feel great. And I'm doing the dishes and I'm packing up my shit. Even before that, when I was on the bus ride, 2-3 hour bus ride home from work, I had put on a meditation. And even if I can't sit there to meditate because of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel and, you know, all kinds of nuttiness and people sitting next to me driving me crazy, I would still have good affirmations going on in my brain. At least if my conscious brain didn't pick it up, my subconscious brain picked it up, or my unconscious brain picked it up. So I really advise you guys to do that. Put some good intentions out in the world. It is a new moon. We got to do that. The more of us that think the light and start visioning the world as light, the better we're going to have. Things come faster and the timelines will shift quicker. Sending each and every one of you love and light. I will try to get the rest of 15. It's a long one, so it's going to have to be a few readings, but the next one's the order of 15. But these two are very essential, and my rants are very essential right now because everybody really needs to know really who's controlling, and this third density is literally hell, designed that way by human man. Now we got to take it back. So I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Please share, like, subscribe, support my work so I can continue doing this. There will be a time I stop saying this because it won't even matter anymore. But in the meantime, I'm in this in between. It is not fun. I want to keep pumping more out, but I'm now stuck stocking up and boxing up a whole house. So my time to this is lessened. Have a great night, guys. Bye.